Hi everybody, I'm Megan Hayes with Megan Hayes Ayurveda, and I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. Today I'm going to tell you about the Ayurvedic doshas. And if you haven't watched my video on the Ayurvedic elements, you might want to watch that first and then come back to this one, as it'll give you a deeper understanding of what I'm going to talk about today. In Ayurveda, there are three doshas, and you can think of the doshas as biophysical forces that govern everything in the universe, including us, including our bodies and our minds. The three doshas are Kapha, Pitta, and Vata. And I'd like to start with Kapha first. Kapha dosha is made of earth and water. And those elements, as you might remember from the elements video, are the heaviest of the elements. Earth represents all the structure in our bodies and the stability in our minds, while water represents all the innate moisture and fluids in our body and the flow of thoughts in our mind. Those with a Kapha constitution, and that just means how you were conceived, how you came into this world. You can even think of that constitution term in Ayurveda as how your genes express themselves through the Ayurvedic doshas. So those with a lot of Kapha in their constitution tend to be drawn to routine and comfort. The heaviest of the elements, earth and water, create more solid features in those with a lot of Kapha in their constitution. So they're going to have thicker bones, thicker skin, larger features, thicker hair. They tend to have more moisture in their bodies because of that water element. So they might sweat more profusely. They might even be prone to more swelling or fluid retention. And they might be more emotional because of that flow, that water element, that flow of thoughts and emotions in the mind. Their digestion tends to be on the slower side. And so it might not take very much for them to feel very heavy or dull after a meal. And this slower digestion or metabolism could also cause them to be more prone to weight gain. People with a lot of Kapha in their constitution often have a very low appetite, and they feel better when they fast. When they're in balance, they're very nurturing, steady, and reliable. They love their routines. But when they're out of balance, they can become withdrawn and sluggish, and not just really into their routines, but emotionally attached to their routines, their possessions, and even their relationships. And so once again, when they're in balance, these things aren't a problem. But someone with a lot of Kapha in their original constitution, sort of how they came into this world, they're going to have to watch those things because they could go out of balance. Next, I'd like to talk about Pitta dosha. And Pitta is made of the elements of fire and a little bit of water. And that water is there to contain the fire so that it doesn't burn us up. And if you'll remember from my elements video, fire element is all about metabolism in the body, even on a cellular level. On a more gross level, it's about digestion, the fire of our digestion. And in the mind, it's all about clarity, transforming sensory input and impressions into clear thoughts, concepts, and ideas. And again, that water element is all about innate moisture and fluid in the body and flow of thoughts in the mind. So those with a Pitta constitution, remember how they came into this world, they tend to be drawn to leadership, intellectual pursuits. They love to achieve, And they have a tendency to be very intense or passionate even in all aspects of their lives, especially work. Physically, they tend to be the dosha with more moderate features. So while Kapha has thicker, more predominant features and structure or matter in the body, Pitta's kind of in the middle. They also tend to be a bit more oily, even though Kapha has a lot of moisture in their bodies. Pitta has a little more oil. And they have very strong digestion. Pitta has very strong digestion, the strongest of all the doshas, and a very strong appetite with a tendency toward over acidity, some burning if they abuse their very strong digestion. And when in balance, they tend to be very warm and friendly and focused. But when they're out of balance, they become very intense, too intense, angry, and prone to inflammation. So again, when they're practicing Ayurveda and a Pitta balancing lifestyle, this isn't a problem. But it's something they need to monitor. And the third and final dosha I want to talk about today is Vata dosha. Vata dosha is made of the elements of air and ether. And again, if you saw that elements video, go ahead and watch it if you haven't. You'll know that air is all about movement. So it represents movement in the body, everything from our heartbeat to breathing to our motor impulses, and movement of thoughts in the mind. Ether represents space. It's the container that holds all of the elements. And as it increases, it begins to diminish the elements. Remember, I used that aging analogy. Our ether increases in the body and mind as we age. And so our hair becomes thinner, our skin becomes thinner, our bones become thinner, etc. So those with a Vata constitution, how they came into this world, if they have more Vata dosha, they tend to be drawn to creative pursuits because of that ether element and how their mind works. They love to move and they love to change, again, because of that air element being more predominant in their bodies and their minds. Physically, they tend to have the smallest and the thinnest and the most delicate features of all of the doshas. So remember, Kapha is thicker, Pitta is in the middle, and Vata is more delicate and thin. They tend to be drier as well because of that air and ether, or those air and ether elements. And their digestive tendencies have a variable nature. So their appetite might be more transient. They might even forget to eat because they're wrapped up in those creative pursuits, kind of out there in the ether, coming up with new ideas, thinking outside the box. And also in the digestive tract, that will be reflected in more gas or tendency toward gas, bloating, and even constipation because of that dry quality of air and ether elements. When they're in balance, people with a lot of Vata in their original constitution, again, how they came into this world, tend to be enthusiastic and energetic. And when they're out of balance, it's very hard for them to sit still, to stay committed and focused on the task at hand. It can be difficult for them to finish something they have started. They're prone to fear and worry and anxiety. Out of all three doshas, they have the most tendency for those emotions. But when they live in balance with their environment, when they practice an Ayurvedic lifestyle and a Vata balancing lifestyle, this is not so much of an issue. It's just something they need to keep an eye on. And so it's important to know that we have all three doshas. Every single one of us has all three doshas within us. If we didn't have Kapha, we wouldn't have structure or moisture. If we didn't have Pitta, we wouldn't have metabolism. We wouldn't have clarity of thoughts. And if we didn't have Vata, we wouldn't move. We wouldn't be animated. So we have all three doshas. But your Ayurvedic health consultation with me, especially your initial consultation, is going to help you determine what percentage of each dosha you started out with, what your original constitution is. And then we'll also look at which dosha or doshas is or are out of balance. Because remember, any of the doshas can go out of balance. It's often the case that the dosha you have the most of is the one that goes out of balance, but not always. And that can be a little tricky. So I hope you consider looking into Ayurveda as a lifestyle practice and as something that can help you heal from any health challenges or health diagnoses with which you are struggling right now. And I hope this was informative. If you'd like to set up an initial consultation with me, I'm physically located in Salt Lake City, Utah, but I'm available for virtual consultations, whether you are here in my town or anywhere in the world. And I really look forward to connecting with you. I hope you will email me or check out my website for more information. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.